Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. The city of Iqaluit will continue to wait before they can begin using tap water again. Late this afternoon, city officials provided an update on the results of recent water tests. Those tests found exceedingly high concentrations of various fuel components in one of the city's in-ground water tanks at the water plant. City officials say the contaminated water is being pumped out of the affected tank, a process that is expected to take 2 days. The do not consume order remains in place and may be in effect until the middle of next week. The first report of smell coming from tap water came on October 2nd, but it wasn't until October 12th that the city officials said residents should not consume tap water or use it to cook. Nunavut health officials say there is no evidence of long-term effects from drinking the contaminated water, but that further investigation is taking place on how the contaminants were able to get into the tank. Well, yesterday we told you about the search off the coast of southwestern Nova Scotia for a Mi'kmaq captain of the vessel Miss Janet. The 52-year-old disappeared overboard Thursday morning. Searchers have located his body this afternoon. Shpagin Chief Mike Sack confirmed today that he was a member from his community, but at the request of the victim's family, the name is being withheld. Well, over to Edmonton today, about a dozen women gathered outside the courthouse there. They were expecting the man charged with second-degree murder in the death of 30-year-old Billie Wynell Johnson to enter a plea. APTN's Chris Stewart was there.
Billie Wynell Johnson deserved better than this. The mother of two went missing last Christmas Eve. Her family searched for months in hopes of finding her safe. In April, her body was found by the Edmonton police off of a tip in a farmer's field in North Edmonton. Her boyfriend, 35-year-old Kenneth Cudarelli, was charged with second-degree murder in her death. Billie Wynell's mother was at the Edmonton courthouse with supporters Friday morning for his plea. She says the support she has received has helped.
The support's been overwhelming. I've been able to do this with a lot of people behind me. If it wasn't for them, I don't think I would have been able to truck on, but I have been.
Johnson says violence against women needs to stop.
These atrocities against our women need to stop, especially coming from our Native men, and they need to be held accountable for the things that they do to our women. They should not be given slaps on the wrist.
Inside the courtroom, Cudarelli's plea was delayed until November 12th. Johnson says she will have another rally then. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
With high-powered First Nations figures like Carrie Price seeking mental health support, discussions about how services and how to get them are ramping up. On the North Shores of Quebec, the Inuit community of Wahatmek-Manutnam recently welcomed a critical resource, the province's first Indigenous-run suicide prevention house. Lindsay Richardson has more.
Wahatmek-Manutnam, population around 3,000. The Inuit community on Quebec's Côte-Nord is close-knit, sharing a love of nature, a love of music, and in many ways, sharing the aftershock caused by a so-called suicide crisis almost 7 years ago.
L'année a fini le 31 octobre 2015. C'est ma nièce, Nadège Guaniche, qui s'est suicidée. Elle avait 17 ans à l'aube de ses 18 ans. Et oui, j'ai été très touchée.
To Marie-Luce Jourdain, 2015 marked a turning point for the community. 5 Innu from Wahatmek-Manutnam died by suicide in the span of a few months. 2 of them took their lives on the same day. In 2017, a coroner's inquest report examining the deaths was publicly released, but recommendation number 1 was only recently fulfilled. The opening of Shimishtin Crisis House, a suicide prevention shelter where Jourdain now works.
C'est le support. Une fois que tu es allé en santé mentale, souvent, au retour, tu n'es pas prêt à retourner chez vous. Donc, tu vas venir ici. Tu vas venir te relaxer, reprendre de l'énergie nécessaire parce que c'est un gros chemin, se rattacher à la vie. Il y a un gros processus qui s'attache à ça. Et nous, on va accompagner l'individu dans cette démarche-là.
Statistics Canada data indicates suicide rates are highest among First Nations, Inuit, and Métis across Canada. But bridging the systemic gaps and addressing specific problems identified in the Quebec coroner's report is not a small undertaking. Just ask the community's deputy chief.
J'ai lu le rapport des 5 suicides. J'en ai lu un. J'ai débuté, je connaissais la personne, j'ai grandi avec, puis c'était vraiment quelque chose de lourd, que je voyais qu'il y avait un manque, vraiment un manque là, entre l'hôpital et la thérapie. C'était le centre de maison de crise, de prévention suicide.
Manitou Gregoire says his community's suicide prevention task force takes a different approach than that recommended by the province. One focus is language and allowing clients to express their feelings in Innu rather than French.
C'est nos besoins, nous autres. Il faut fonctionner avec nos besoins, puis la santé commence à avoir une ouverture là-dedans.
The services at the crisis house are available to members of neighboring communities as well as Washat Makmaniutnam. Many people here carry individual stories of loss, but the desire to heal and strengthen is collective.
Quand on m'a invité à participer au comité, c'était un cadeau pour moi parce que j'ai promis à Manadège que j'allais trouver une solution pour aider les autres.
Chimishton House's 1-800 number is open to the public 24/7. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
The COVID-19 Delta variant is now widespread across Canada, and many Indigenous communities are taking measures to protect themselves against the virus. Here's Sarah Connors with a look at how COVID is affecting communities across the country this week.
At this checkpoint near Prince George, BC, the message is clear: no visitors allowed. Earlier this month, Iqaluit First Nation restricted access to its community because of a surge of COVID cases in northern BC, including an outbreak of 10 cases at this hospital in Prince George. Chief Darlene Logan says the checkpoint was necessary to protect band members.
We had a few members that were tested positive, so we wanted to lock down the reserve right away.
While the checkpoint has since been removed, Logan says it's important people in northern BC get vaccinated to slow the spread.
This is important for all walks of life, is to be vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hands.
There are 677 active cases in northern BC. This past week alone, BC's Northern Health Region reported 8 deaths, plus an outbreak at a long-term care home. And as of Thursday, there are 58 critical care patients in northern BC. With only 63 critical care beds in the north, the province has been flying patients south for treatment. The influx of cases has forced the BC government to declare circuit breaker restrictions in the Northern Health Region until November 19th, including limits on gatherings and the closure of bars and nightclubs.
We need to take additional measures to stop this transmission, to stop this severe illness in young people, in middle-aged people, in people whose immune systems aren't working as well across the north.
There's also a spike of cases in northern Quebec's Nunavut region. The hardest hit community is Iqaluit, where there are 9 active cases in the community of 400. With a double vaccination rate of only 55%, the community has gone into lockdown and flights are limited to essential travel only.
It's hard to be isolated and it's stressful. The community has been locked down for the regional travels, and there's no school, no daycare, and the public places are closed.
To make matters worse, Iqaluit is almost out of vaccines, though more are expected to arrive as soon as next week. In Alberta, the 4 Cree First Nations of Muskachees are likewise grappling with cases. Located about 100 kilometers south of Edmonton, the community had 260 active cases in September, and while numbers are declining, there are still 94 active cases. Meanwhile, NWT is reporting its 9th death, and now has the highest per capita rate of active COVID-19 infections in Canada, causing some communities to go into a circuit break lockdown. The territory continues to struggle with multiple COVID outbreaks, including at shelters in Inuvik and Yellowknife. In Betchago, the largest First Nation community in the territory near Yellowknife, there are 133 active cases and a moderate vaccination rate of 65%. Betchago has been under a containment order for weeks, and Chief Clifford Daniel says the virus is worsening issues already in the community, like housing.
The statistics show that, 22% of our houses in the community are overcrowded, and we need quite a bit of housing here. And so, if one person in the household gets affected, then it just spreads to everybody.
However, numbers are dropping in the territory. There are currently 373 active cases, down from 456 last Friday. Restrictions are set to lift on October 22nd. Daniel says COVID numbers in Betchago continue to fluctuate daily, though he's hopeful additional measures like a temporary prohibition order will help curb new cases.
We're trying as best as we can in the community to keep the spread from getting worse. And, the community is gradually, slowly buying in.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
One of the best-known advocates for the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Manitoba is in a Winnipeg hospital this week after being diagnosed with COVID-19. Bernice Ketchway is the mother of Jennifer Ketchway, who went missing from Manitoba back in 2008. Bernice and her husband have never stopped looking for Jennifer. They've been active in bringing the MMIWG issue to the forefront and comforting other families whose loved ones have gone missing or have been found murdered. Willie Starr is Bernice's son.
I feel good that my mom is here and getting the care that she needs right now. But we're not out of the woods just yet. It's going to take some time for her to recover.
Family said she had not yet been vaccinated against the virus. Well, we need to take a break, but still ahead, breast cancer in Indigenous and BIPOC women. Stay with us. A new campaign is giving BIPOC and Indigenous women an opportunity to heal. Rethink Breast Cancer is an online resource for survivors, and this year features 4 models, including an Inuk woman. Uncovered, an online campaign wants to show women that they can boldly reclaim their diagnosis. Rethink Breast Cancer has been around for over 2 decades and aims to give women of color a better idea of how they may look post-surgery. Vicky Oftemauer is one of the 4 women featured in this year's campaign. The 46-year-old Inuk from Baffin Island was diagnosed with stage 2 cancer in 2019. She was uncomfortable with some of the aspects of the Western medical system, but found Indigenous interpreters and healers helped her get through those treatments. Breast cancer rates are on the rise for Indigenous women in Canada, and Oftemauer says that these resources and the Rethink campaign will help Indigenous women stay strong.
What I kind of experienced and was affirmed and confirmed for me through this process was like this spirit that I have, this kind of bright spirit that I have is unbreakable, and that, my body may have had to gone through something where, things were poked and prodded and cut. But that my spirit has remained intact, and that we can get through hard things if we, if we stay connected to ourselves, to our values as Indigenous people, to community, and we can get through it.
Well, NDP MP Charlie Angus often has a lot of things to say about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and yesterday he sent him a letter. It asked why he let the Catholic Church renege on a $79 million deal for residential school survivors. Angus also asked why the then Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, hadn't been consulted on the deal. To explain more about that letter, we're joined now by Charlie Angus. Mr. Angus, why now to press Prime Minister Trudeau about, and the Liberal government about something that happened back in 2015?
The fact that the Catholic Church was able to walk on the money that they owed in the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement has remained an outstanding sore since 2015. Because we know that they would have had to pay much more in terms of damages if this had gone to court. So the federal government and the churches came up with this idea that they would limit their liabilities and all the churches would pay some money and then the survivors would get paid out. That hasn't worked out. And the fact that a decision was made to let at the federal court to let the Catholic Church walk was highly problematic. But now we're learning that after the Trudeau government was brought in, the appeal against the Catholic Church was dropped, and now we also find out that then Indigenous Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould wasn't told about this. So who made this decision to let the Catholic Church whistle out of the money they owed?
Yeah. You know, another thing, your party, the NDP party, is going to be expected, to support this Liberal minority government. Is this something that you are going to use as leverage, I guess, that support to get something going on this deal again?
I think that all Canadians are expecting that the Catholic Church will be held accountable because they walked on the obligations. They have not turned over the documents. We're so many bodies of children at various residential schools. This is bigger, I think, than a minority government. This is a national reckoning, and the Catholic Church is going to have to play their part, whether they get dragged kicking and screaming or not. Mm-hmm. And we certainly expect that the Prime Minister, in the interest of the powerful history that's happening right now, can explain to us who made that decision in his new government that let the Catholic Church welsh on their obligations.
Absolutely. And speaking of new government, we're 10 days away from a new cabinet. Do you believe that Carolyn Bennett and Mark Miller should retain their cabinet seats in Crown Indigenous Relations and Indigenous Services Canada, or do you think there should be new people that are brought into those roles?
I think the Prime Minister's choice on this will send a really clear message. Carolyn Bennett should not be in that role. I've known Ms. Bennett for many years. I've worked with her on many files, but I think she has become a toxic presence in the issues of reconciliation, particularly her obsession in going after the survivors of St. Anne's Residential School and refusing to deal with the fact that this was a massive miscarriage of justice. Once again, the collusion of the Catholic Church and the federal government suppressing evidence, protecting the names of the perpetrators, having hundreds of cases heard in hearings without proper evidence is a miscarriage of justice. And I don't think Ms. Bennett should stay in that role. I think it would send a really wrong message. I think Minister Miller has underperformed. I think he's very well-meaning. I don't think he has stood up to some of the challenges that are coming. And so I'm interested to see what the Prime Minister is willing to do on this file. But the Prime Minister really needs to understand that if we're going to move towards reconciliation, we have to start dismantling that bureaucracy. We have to dismantle that department. We have to show that the government understands its collusion in the crimes against the people that meet the test of international crimes against humanity. They've got to start getting serious about this. And this is what we've heard from survivors, but we're hearing this across the country right now. So this is a moment for the Prime Minister, I think, to start over again and to try and repair some of the damaged relations that he's created over the last number of years with his decisions.
Well, we shall see if that happens. Charlie Angus, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to chat.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's time for us to take another break, but coming up, an Indigenous model walks the biggest of all catwalks. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Well, this is what you will find during a seasonal walk through the forest in the territory of the Okanagan people near Kelowna, British Columbia. Thanks to Aidan Withers for this great picture. You can send your fall nature shots to share at aptn.ca and then tune in to see if you are featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting off on the east coast, we've got 8 and cloud in St. John, 17 for Charlottetown and Halifax, and sunny there. Sunshine and 8 for Kuujjuaq, Nain, mix of sun and cloud and 3 degrees. Gaspé, 10 and a chance of showers, 20 and some rain expected for Montreal. 19 in showers for Ottawa, 13 in showers for Sault Ste. Marie. Kapuskasing, 13 in showers, Timmins, 12 in showers. Sunshine and 8 for Puckatawagan and Thompson, 10 in sunshine for Norway House. 14 and sunny in Winnipeg, Brandon, and Dauphin. Sunshine in Saskatchewan, 16 for Saskatoon, 15 for Regina. 7 and sunny in Stony Rapids, 12 and sunshine for Larange. Chance of flurries and 8 degrees for Grand Prairie, 11 and sunshine for Fort McMurray. 16 and sunny in Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary. 17 in showers for Penticton and Kamloops, 13 in cloud for Quesnel. 9 in showers for Prince George, 4 and sunny for Fort Nelson. 2 and sunny for Whitehorse and Watson Lake, 1 and snow for Mayo. 0 and snow for Wrigley, 7 and a chance of flurries for Yellowknife. Colville Lake, flurries and 0. Sax Harbor, -6 and flurries. 4 and cloud for Baker Lake, 1 and snow for New Yacht. Iqaluit, -1 in sunny skies. Pangertung and Iqaluit both +1 in sunshine. Well, Quanah Chasing Horses star just keeps shining brighter. The Hangwichin and Oglala Lakota model and activist has graced pages of Vogue. She's made a splash at the Met Gala, and now she has walked the runway for one of the most iconic design houses in the world, Chanel.
The energy backstage was insane. It was amazing. Getting ready, doing makeup and all of that. Everyone was just having so much fun.
Chasing Horse sashayed for the Spring-Summer 2022 show, sharing the runway with some of the biggest names in modeling, including Lily Rose Depp, that's the daughter of actor Johnny Depp. The ready-to-wear collection harkens back to some bold Chanel looks from the 80s. You can watch the entire show at chanel.com. There's also some backstage extras in there, too.
Very confident.
Crazy. Well, after flipping through the pages of the Colonial Playbook last week, APTN Investigates is now exploring the Colonial Toolkit, tactics that Indigenous people are using to close the Colonial Playbook and break free from colonial chains. Josh Grummett is here with a preview. Josh, tell us a little bit about this show title, the Colonial Toolkit. What is the Colonial Toolkit?
Absolutely. So if you watched Investigates last week, you will have seen our first episode of the season, the Colonial Playbook, where we go through the playbook of strategies and tactics that Canada has consistently used to delay and deny Indigenous justice. This week, we go into the toolkit. What are the responses? What are people doing on the ground across Turtle Island to fight back, to sort of reclaim the future, to respond to the playbook that Canada uses?
I love it. And some of the weapons that would be found in this Colonial Toolkit, what are they?
So first up, we've got our producer Robert J. Ballantyne visiting with Veldon Coburn on Pequannagon, who they're talking about the resolution of the Algonquin land claim and how to organize responses to it, how to make sure that the people who are part of the community can get an equitable solution for all. Then we visit with Pam Palmer at Ryerson University to talk about the toppling of the statue of Egerton Ryerson. I lead us through meeting several Indigenous game designers who are designing games that you can buy and play at home that examine colonial themes. And lastly, Charlotte Moore-Jacobs takes us up to Dechinta Bush University to meet with Glenn Coulthard and Leanne Simpson and talk about land-based education.
Well, this is going to be a fascinating one to watch. I saw the Colonial Playbook last week. Looking very forward to this tonight. Thanks so much for joining us to give us a little heads up about what to expect.
No problem.
Well, we are all out of time for your Friday news. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to see you back here tomorrow with your APTN News Weekend. Until then, have a great night. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Stay tuned right now for the Colonial Toolkit on APTN Investigates.